Good morning and welcome to the Civil 3D webinar this morning. My name's Ian Robinson. I'll be taking you through some of the features of Civil 3D today. Can we just make sure that everybody can hear me? So if you can just look in the questions box on the application and just respond with yes or I can hear or yo or whatever you want, just to let me know that you can hear me. And also if you can't hear me, then I've put that up on the screen for obvious reasons. Excellent, it looks like I'm being heard. Okay, that's pretty much everybody here, so we'll make a start. Just minimize that. Now we know that we're all here. Okay, so today's agenda is all about Civil 3D. I'm going to give you a little brief introduction to Greytech because some of you that are attending today don't know who we are or have very little information about us. So I'll just go through that, and then I'll go through the infrastructure design suite because there are some changes that were done last time. I've mentioned this before, but people I'm still seeing and speaking to haven't seen some of the changes, and there was a recent one as well which I want to just talk about. Then we're going to do straight into Civil 3D and just do some road design work. We're going to work with cloud data just to show you what we can do with cloud data at the moment. I was going to have a look at some drainage design as well, and then we can look at the new collaboration tools as well with this federated model. So today's session is showing the basics of Civil 3D with a hint into the next level. We'll be doing some road design on a housing estate and showing how targeting works, and then I'll show you some new tools in point clouds. The drainage stuff, I haven't got an awful lot prepared for drainage, so we'll have a look at that, and if anybody has any questions we can go through that. And then we'll show you how you can connect to this model basically using a Navisworks model into your drawing, which is a new feature which is actually really good. It's something we've been asking for a while. So a little bit about myself first. So my name's Ian Robinson. I'm the infrastructure consultant for Greytech, located in the UK. I've put my contact details up here. Should anyone have any questions, please feel free to note them. You can use the screen capture tool that I think is in the top right of your screen, just to take an image of that if you wish, save you having to write it down. I'm on my own today, so there won't be anybody moderating any questions, so by all means use the box and I'll go through them at the end. Alternatively, just send me an email or you can tweet me if you want. Okay. Greytech, so we're a global organisation. We develop, distribute, support and customise a suite of BIM solutions for the AEC industry. We're an Autodesk Platinum partner across Europe now, and combined with our own portfolio of established software, we can support projects across the full spectrum of our customers' requirements. We've over 30 years of experience with CAD, BIM and design solutions, and we're now one of the biggest worldwide Autodesk partners with over 330 employees, including more than 180 skilled engineers. In the UK alone, we've got over 70 staff in 5 locations. The infrastructure design suite, if you've not seen that, for some of you who don't have it, you can buy it in a number of ways, or if you've got standalone and you want to go to the next level with additional software bundles, then you can buy it as a suite, which is up on the screen now. And there is a new one as well called the Design Bundle Plus. I don't know if anybody's seen that one. And that you can purchase InfoWorks 360. And the Design Bundle Plus comes with Civil 3D and Advanced Vehicle Tracking as well. So you can do full 3D roundabout design automated in ABT and also do vehicle tracking, for obviously. And then you've got the InfoWorks tool. If you're interested, I will be showing some of the InfoWorks tools, again at about the same level as I'm showing Civil 3D today. So if anybody's interested in seeing that, we'll be showing that at 2:30, I think it is today. At the end of the slide there's a thing showing you what's next, so if I've got that time slightly wrong, you'll be able to see at the end exactly when that's going to be. So in the design suite it comes in 3 guises: standard, premium or ultimate. If you want Civil 3D you need either premium or ultimate, and you get all these products. So obviously you get AutoCAD, Civil 3D is built on AutoCAD, and you get AutoCAD Map because Civil 3D is built on that as well. You also get Recap for your point cloud design, you get raster design as well. And then you also get in standard and premium, you get Navisworks Simulate, and in the ultimate you get Navisworks Manage, which allows you to do clash detection as well. And it's worth noting as well that with Civil 3D there's a lot of free modules you can download as well: the geotechnical module, the bridge module, there's a rail layout module as well, and the river and flood analysis module. There's the ultimate with comes with the utility design suite as well, and also 3ds Max. For those of you that don't want to kind of go to the level of 3ds Max, that's where InfoWorks comes in for doing visuals, which is really good. And of course you get Revit as well in there as some structural analysis, robot structural analysis as well. Those of you that saw the first presentation I did earlier this year, then you'll notice that InfoWorks isn't on the list anymore. There's no need to panic, you can still have it. So if you've got Premium or Ultimate Design Suite, you can download InfoWorks, and as part of the package you get the tools, the LT version. And as I say, I'll be looking at that in more detail this afternoon, and I'll show you exactly what the differences are between InfoWorks LT 360 and InfoWorks 360. If you have any questions, just ask me as well using the question box, or again via email. We can look at that. Okay, so these are the items we're going to be looking at. So working with intelligent road design, which we'll do first, and then we'll look at the importing the point cloud, the drainage design, and collaborating with a federated model. Right, so let me minimize that and go straight to Civil 3D. Should be in this list. I'm in trouble if it isn't. Right, okay, so let's start with planning layout. Okay, so I'm getting a lot of these kind of drawings at the moment from house builders and planners who are wanting to do the groundworks. And basically somebody has done the design, not necessarily an engineer, so there could be some issues with the geometries that they've created. They create a flat DWG model, and then the surveyor goes out and gets the survey in and brings a separate DWG, hopefully in 3D. Occasionally we get them in 2D, and there's some nice little tools for bringing 2D up to 3D in Civil 3D. So what I've done in preparation for this is I've brought the survey in already, and I've just created a surface from it, and we can have a look at the surface. If I just turn that on from no display to some contours, and there's the contours for the surface. Okay, I showed how to create surfaces last time, so I'm not doing that this time. And again, if anybody has any specific questions on how to create a surface from a survey, then let me know. But we've already got our surface in there. What I like about Civil 3D is you don't actually need to see it. You know, it's there, that's fine, and we need it for referencing, but we don't actually need to see that surface. And if I hover my mouse anywhere, you'll see that it gives me the elevations everywhere. So what we're going to do is we're just going to design this road down here. And what I wanted to show you in addition to the basics was simple widenings, etc. So we've got a widening here. So this is just a parking bay, a 2-car parking bay. You can see they're all done in polylines. The properties of these polylines, if we have a look at them, polylines, you'll see that there's no elevation to them. That's okay. We haven't got a 3D drawing here, it's just a 2D drawing. So the first thing is we're going to take an alignment from here and create this as our road number 1. Then we'll have a look at another road and what have you, and we'll bring it in here, and there's a junction in here to do, and we could manually do this junction if we want to. We'll see how time goes, and I can show you how to manually create that junction. Okay, so what we'll do is, first thing is we'll create an alignment. So the one thing that a lot of people look at is, or avoid should I say, is these best fit alignments, and they're actually quite useful. I must admit, I tend not to do the create best fit alignment. You can see the image that it's showing there, how you can take a load of survey points and it will put an alignment down the middle of these survey points, which is quite nice. But what I tend to do when I've got this type of drawing is I go into my alignment creation tools. I'll call this one Road 1. It's going to be a center line alignment. We're not going to use any design criteria. This is an estate. Sometimes it's useful to put the design criteria on, certainly on other roads that are accessing the estate, so you can see whether the designer has done anything that's outside of design. But obviously this is a slow, potentially 20-mile-an-hour limit road with speed humps on it, so we're okay. So I'm not going to do that, but I am just going to create it with design style, and we click OK. Here's my alignment layout tools. If any of you have not seen Civil 3D before, let me just open up. Yeah. These are our tools. So when we're creating a three-dimensional road design, we need three elements essentially. We need a horizontal alignment, so that tells us where the road is going in 2D in the horizontal. Then we need a vertical alignment, which tells us what our road is doing in the vertical, so that's a profile. And then we need a cross-section of our road that we're going to put along the alignment in what we call a corridor, so any linear objects basically, and that's called an assembly. So in here we've got lots of funky tools to be able to create alignments, and often you'll see in demonstrations people will just go, okay, we'll just do tangents with curves and get it to automate the curves using particular settings for the lengths of curves. Spirals in the UK, that's a transition, but we're not going to do that. We've already got the geometry from here. All I want to do is check that the designer has made them tangential, and then I can have a look at what is created afterwards. So if we have a look at the first geometry there, you can see there that it's a curve. It's clearly a polyline, but it's an arced polyline. So I'll go into my curves and I'll do a fixed curve, and I'll use a best fit from these entities. So you can do it from Kogo points, or even if it's just AutoCAD points is giving you, or you can just go clicking on the screen if you've got reference points that you can click on. But I'll do it from the entities, and we'll click OK and select that arc. So you can see those selected some points along this arc. That allows me to inspect the points that it's selected, which I'm happy with, so I'll just press enter. And then you get this, what's called a regression graph here. And basically, if this is miles off, this red line, the green line is the existing line, the red line is the one that I'm creating. If this is miles off the geometry, which you wouldn't expect it to be on the first one, I'll show you it when it goes off a little bit in a minute, we can then start excluding points or forcing it to go through points. But obviously this is a single entity, so for a starting point, you wouldn't expect it to do anything. But you just click the little tick, and there's the first part of your alignment. So let's have a look at the next set of geometry. Is there a straight in there? The answer is no, it's a straight curve. So basically you're going from one curve to a reverse curve. So what we'll do here, oh, I've pressed escape one too many times. Very easy, just select your alignment, go to the geometry editor and it comes back. So in here we will connect our road, the other curve, to this curve. And the beauty is it will make sure that it's tangential, so it won't have any jaggly bits. Jaggly bits, I'm not sure that's an actual term, but you get the idea. Basically, we just have a look at this tool here in a bit more detail. Again, some of the new users of Civil 3D shy away from these extra ones, but basically the top three are fixed curves. So basically you've got 3 points for your curve, and I'm going to place it here, here and here, and it will create a curve, and you've seen me do that with the best fit, which is, this is basically where you would start. And the same with lines, you would start with a fixed line. So I'm going to click on the drawing, or I can take a line from a curve end. But on our curve, so fixed is basically 3 points. Floating is attached to another radius, so another entity if you like. So it could be a straight or it could be a curve. And the beauty behind having the floating is that it will force it to be tangential. And then free curves is like a fillet. So it's putting between two straights, it's putting a curve with set radiuses, or by clicking on the screen or using best fit. So if I put a floating curve best fit on here, the first question it'll ask me is, what entity would you like to attach it to? So I'm going to attach it to my alignment. And I'm going to pick the entity that I want to attach to it. So I'll click OK. From entities, OK. Select that line, and again we can see the points that it's picked, and we hit enter and have a look at the regression graph, and you can see it's nice and straight, no problems there. So you hit the little tick, and there we are, we've got a perfect alignment in basically 2 moves, which is nice and easy. I just wanted to show you road 3 here. So the designer here, you can see it looks a bit odd, and I suspect that there are some problems with the geometry there, and I wouldn't be able to design a corridor on there very neatly. We'll get a thing called bow tying, where the cross sections that you put across will cross over each other, so that would be no good. So if I was to do the same on here, so I'm going to create another road alignment. So I'll go in, go to my alignments, alignment creation tools. I'll call this one road 3. Click OK. Okay, and let's have a look at the geometry. So it's clearly a straight, so I'll just put a best fit straight in from the entity. Okay, and hit enter. You'd expect that to be correct. The next object here is probably an arc, and then a straight from there. So what I'll do is I'll put a best fit curve in there. I've just noticed that I could do with reversing that entity. Okay, which I've done, and I could also do with setting my station 0 back up here. I should have reversed it when I created it. It's to do with the way in which the line was drawn originally. There we are, so we're back to 0 here. We'll put a curve on there, and we'll put a best fit curve on here. So we'll need to attach it to our alignment, select the entities you want to add to it, which is that one there, and you can see immediately that that curve is not perfect. That's okay, we'll just press enter, because what we can now do is force the software to go to this point, and it will put a tangential point here and put a curve to that point there, and all you do is you tick the pass through, and you can see now it's forcing that curve on there, and it's obviously going to be away from the designer's line because he didn't do it very well. So you can go back to him and say that wasn't very good. And the regression graph now, you can see it's pretty close, but it's not exactly, it looks a bit darker. Could do with being a bit bigger really, that couldn't it? But click OK, and then we'll stick a straight on the end of that curve, and again I'll use the best fit. Oh, I didn't want to use a fixed line, I want to use a floating line, so I want to attach it to the curve from the entity, select the line. You can see it's slightly away from the designer, but at least we know the geometries are correct. There you go, you can see the green line underneath now on that regression graph, so it's just slightly out. There's no point forcing it to go through these 2 points because it's going to go through them anyway. Click OK, and there we are. There's our horizontal geometry that is now correct. Okay, do a region. There we are. We'll zoom in. You can see that the designer didn't design it very well, but we've got our geometries correct now, so that's good. Okay, so let's go back to here. So that's our horizontal. So the first thing we need to do is we need to understand what's happening in the vertical. If we drive on the existing ground, it's currently a field. Is this? If I zoom out and we have a quick look, we can go to geolocation, turn an aerial imagery on. You can see it's basically a field. So if I was to drive down there, I'd probably spill me tea, so we won't do that. The geolocation tool is really good actually. If you've never seen that, you don't need to buy anything. You just need to make sure that you're signed in to A360. Notice mine saying I'm not signed in, but I am. You need to be signed into A360. You can create an A360 account. You can create multiple of them. They're free, and they will allow you to use this geolocation tool. So map, aerial, road, which is basically, these are from Bing. So there's our Bing map, or you can do a hybrid of the two, and it'll give you some reference. So you need to have a 360 account and you need to be signed in. And then the other thing that you need for it is the drawing needs to be on the correct coordinate system. So we need to make sure that in our settings, if we look at our drawing settings, right click the drawing, edit the drawing settings, it needs to be set up on the correct coordinates. So in the UK, we tend to work on the British National Grid. Ireland, you've got your own, and obviously throughout Europe you've got your own as well. You can do it that way, or you can type CS AS, and it comes up with CS assign. There we are, and you can just go and search for the one that you want. So if I type Brit, you'll see the British National Grid in there, and just make sure it's assigned to the drawing. Otherwise it won't show any mapping. So they're the two elements that you need. Okay, so remember we've already got a surface in here. I'm just not showing it. You can see a Z value showing there, 30.065. So all I need to do is create a profile of this road. So I'll go to Profile, create a surface profile, Road 1, existing ground. So you need to pick the right alignment, because I've got two now. I created Road 3, didn't I? And then you need to pick the right surface. So when you're starting out, you probably will only have one surface from the surveyor. But as you get through this process, you'll find that you'll have, maybe as much as 20 different surfaces in your drawing. If you do get to a large number of surfaces, then it's worth using data shortcuts, and we'll cover that in another session at another time. So all you need to do is click Add. You can't click OK. You can see it's greyed out, which is quite handy. Click Add, and there it is. So there's our profile. It's using the existing ground. You can set offsets if you want. You can put it on layers, and it's got different styles. So what this style is, the existing ground style, just allows me to see it as a dashed green line. You can create your own styles in there. You don't have to go from start to end either. You can just do the section that you want. Now if I click OK at this point, it will create the profile, but it won't draw it. So what I need to do is draw it. So I'm going to go Draw in Profile View, and you'll get this window up here. And this window here allows you to create your profile view, and I'm going to use pretty much the standard settings out of the box. When I say out of the box, I'm using the UKIE country kit, which allows a lot of the styles already done for me, but you can create your own. I have some customers who've created their own styles. It can take some time, but if you've got a particular standard that you want, then you can create that. I'll just run through what this box does. So the first thing is it's already picked the alignment, because that was the one that I profiled. Yeah, I could go and create a different one if I'd selected the wrong one, but you don't want to do that because I haven't got a profile on the other alignment. So I'm using that alignment. It's going to name it, and it's going to name it whatever the parent alignment is. So it's going to name it Road 1, long section. But of course I could start typing in whatever I wanted, and it will name it whatever I want. And it's worth putting descriptions in. Again, part of the BIM process, it's useful to have extra data if you like, so just describing what you've done, particularly if you're working in a multidiscipline project with multiple people. Sometimes it's worth just describing it. There are some styles, again, out of the box or in the country kit. And you can see there we can either exaggerate the vertical 10 times, 5 times, or we can use natural scale. And then there's a couple of others which are just legacy ones. So there's UK local authority, for example. And standard, you'll see a standard style of pretty much most things. Again, it's just out of the box. I'm going to use 5 times exaggeration, and it's going to stick it on a layer called C profile views. In the States, they do stacked profiles. We're not going to do that here. I can either click next, or I can go down clicking on these here. So it's going to draw the profile from start to end. So in the same way that we did the profile, and we could have said don't profile from start to end, we could, which we didn't, we profiled from start to end. We could tell it to profile all the way from start to end, but only draw this section. And again, on long roads, you would probably only do it in sections. So we're going to just leave it on start to finish. Click next. The profile view height, so it sampled the surface already, and it said, look, here's the range. You can see it's a fairly flat field, this. So that's the range that it's covering, so 29.23 to 30.57 meters. If I was going to be knowing that I was going to be putting some structures in here, I would probably go to user specified and up that to 35 or 36 meters. Or if I'm doing some digging, then I would lower it as well, which will give me an advantage. Oh, by the way, anything that you do at this stage, it's not fixed in stone. So I haven't changed that, but I can later on. So if I come to this site later on, having already drawn the profile, I can go back in at any point and change these levels or how much I'm showing or whatever. The display options, so we've only got one profile, but you could have multiple profiles in here, so you can turn some on, turn some off, and what have you. And we can leave it dynamic. You can create a static one if you want. There are certain circumstances where you create a static one, but this isn't the case. And the dynamic means that if I change my alignment, it will resample the surface automatically and redraw the profile for me automatically. So I'll click next. There's no pipe and pressure networks in here, and we've got different band sets that we can use. So if I had pipes, for example, we've got a band set for pipes. We've got some geometry level details, and we've got the chainage. So here I'm going to describe a chainage and then what the existing ground levels of that chainage. And again, later on, when I've actually created some vertical design, you can go back in and you can add additional band sets into there. So for example, you could put your final ground band set in there and then show level differences as well. So you can do that later on. Click next. We have some customers that like to hatch their profiles. I find it harder to hatch when you're doing the design and quite useful to be able to hatch at the end. So if you want something that looks fairly pretty or it's fairly obvious, you want the red for showing where the cut is and green for showing where the fill is, it's usually best to do that probably right at the end. So you'll see there I didn't actually change anything. I'm just going to click create profile view, and it's now saying, if we look at the command line, that's the important bit, select a profile view origin. So where am I going to plonk it? Well, I'll stick it out the way, I'll stick it here, and there's our profile view. And as I mentioned, it is dynamic. So if I just go to two horizontal views and zoom that in, and then we can have a look. If I did change any of the horizontal geometry, so I'm going to change it at the start, you should see these levels change here. I'll just drag that over there, and you see the levels change. It's fairly flat in here. I wish I'd picked a less flat area. There we are, that's better. You can see it change like so. Okay, so let's undo all of that. There we're back to normal. I quite like these new grips for the these views, where you can just go in and add additional profiles, additional views, or you can just drag it down. It'll go back to a single view. I quite like that. Okay, so back to our profile. Yeah. So in our profile, we have our horizontal design, what we need to now do, as I say, if we start driving on that, it's going to spill our tea. We're going to design our vertical on there now. We want it pretty close to this, and again, you can use best fit on this line if you want, and it will actually create a nice curve best fit on there. So we go to our profile, and instead of creating a surface profile, which is what we did to get this, we now need to create our own tool. So there we are. You can see you've got best fit profiles from there as well, but we'll just do a profile creation tools. Select your profile view. This is what some people get wrong. So you've got two things: a profile view, which is basically all this white stuff here, the graph if you like, and profile, which is the green thing. So that's the actual profile. So it's asking us to select the view. So just pick any of that white stuff, and it will give it a name. So it's using the alignment road. I can't change that now because the profile is tied to that alignment. It's going to name it, the alignment name, so it'll be called road 1, and then VP, vertical profile, and then the next counter. And again, you can change that to whatever you want. And again, part of the BIM process, you want to start naming all of your items in a suitable fashion. Then you might want to automate that changing. And again, I can show you either separately, get in touch with us, how you do that. Again, we've got design criteria. We're not going to use that today. And we've got our profile style, which is just design style with line weight. So in the same way as our horizontal, it's going to give us basically blue, red, or yellow lines to show us where the geometry's types are different, so straights and curves, etc. So I'll just click OK, and we get a toolbar up. Looks very similar to the last toolbar you've seen. And again, you can automate this. You can draw tangents with curves, or you can go in and do fixed or floating tangents. You've got fixed or floating curves. The only difference is you don't have transitions in here, whereas in the horizontal you've got a transition for when you're doing super elevation. Let's just do tangents with curves. If we have a look at our curve settings, we can type in the K values that we want. So it's a little site here, so 15, and then we can go in and just draw tangents with curves. I'm going to snap to the beginning, turn off my object snaps now, and I'll just take it up here, down there, and then snap to the end. Keep it simple. And there we are. Okay. Now what you can do is you can have a look at the geometry in a grid view now. We can do the same with the alignments. I'll come back and do that in a second. So we can go in and we can have a look at what our values are. So we can see our elevations, we can see the grades. So if you're working, if you find that the site's too big, we can go in and adjust it. Remember, everything's dynamic, so we can adjust these grades. You can click in and type in values, and then we can see our K values there. So that first one, this first curve here, we hit our minimum, and on the second curve it decided 50 was okay. But if you wanted to drop that down to 15, you can, and you can see it updated that curve for us. So we've got a fairly minimal cut and fill in there. Remember, if you're not used to doing profiling, this is set at 5 times exaggeration, so it all looks a bit more dramatic than it was, which is what you need for designing it. But just to show you, if I go to my profile view properties, go to natural scale, that's what it actually looks like. You know, it's pretty flat. Oh, phone's ringing. Let me just turn that off. There we go. Oh, that's the other thing. I'll just turn that off as well. Okay, so let me go back to 5 times exaggeration. There we go. And there's our designed vertical profile. That is one of the other things that I love about the ribbon, and I know there are still some people out there that don't get on well with the ribbon in AutoCAD, but in Civil 3D it's essential. It makes life so much easier, Before the ribbon, about 80% of my calls were I can't find this tool, or Civil 3D doesn't do that feature, and I look and it does do that feature and the tool does exist. Now I never get asked that, because if you want all the tools for profiles, you select it and they all appear. Similarly, if I went back to my alignment and I want to get all my tools for alignment, you select it, your alignment, and all your tools are there. So I can go in and rename it using the alignment properties in there. I can change the design criteria, change the speed of the road. We can also go back into the geometry editor and have a look at the table like we did before. There we are, there's the table. So we can see our curve radiuses here, 150 and 60. 60 is our limit, so we're happy with that. You know, he's the guy who actually designed the site did do a good job. We can even go back into our best fit and have a look at the regression graph. So you can get back to that information and change the weighting or pass through points or excluding points. You can go right in and change all that geometry. Okay, so that's our road, alignment vertically and horizontally. So now what we're going to do is we're going to run a corridor down this one here. So we need to design our road. And if I just do a quick DI, we'll just have a look at how wide that road is. I think it's 275. Yeah, it is. So he's done a 275, and I'll do another one for that path, and that's a 2-meter path. He's not allowed for any curbing in there. We'll stick a curb in there as well, and then we're going to widen it to here. And we've got choices when we get to this point here. Sometimes it's worth just getting rid of some of these extra geometry things. So this is the markings for the bay. So while I'm designing the widening, they'll just get in the way. Rather than turning them off, because they might be on the same layer as other stuff that I need, I'll just hide them just for now. There's a weird thing going on there, I suspect. No, it's just on a different... it's a temporary object, so basically it's just allowing me to get the road to that point. That's okay. Yeah, I understand that. So that's good. Okay, so the next thing then we need to do is design our road. I've already done a load of them here, so I'll show you how to do them, but basically I'll do this one again just to show you. You basically create an assembly and then you set your road parameters in here. Now some of these, well, most of the road carriageways, the width you can set and the slope you can set, but you can also automate it so that it will go to geometries in the drawing, and I'll explain that and show you that when we do that widening section in there. So how did we create that? Let me just show you that. So we do an assembly first, create an assembly. I'll just call this one web 1 just to show you how to do it. I'm going to use the ones that are in there. You can tell it what type of assembly it is. Again, this is just an organisational tool, so undivided crown road. There's no real styles needed for that. It's just basically this round thing here with the cross markers through it. So we'll leave that on basic. And then you've got these code sets. Don't worry about them. Leave them on assembly creation. It looks like that. That's all you need. Place it somewhere in your drawing. So I'm going to plonk it there, and it zooms to it. Now, when you're doing this, it's the tools that you need for assembly creation is you need your properties. So you can see I've got mine open up on the right hand side here, and then you also need your tool palettes open, and in your tool palettes it needs to be set to civil metric subassemblies, unless you're in the States of course, or working on Imperial, then you would set it to that one. There's other stuff in here as well that people forget about, because it's not hidden, but it's on a right click, and not everybody right clicks all over the screen, unlike me. But there's other things like these multi-view blocks as well, which are really useful. These are things that you can add to your drawing, some UK signs in there, and they are three-dimensional objects, trees. The building footprints are fairly American. But for example, if you were putting in a wind turbine, you can click on it. Oh, ignore that. And it will put your wind turbine in. And that is not just a 2D object, it's a 3D object. If we have a look at it in 3 dimensions using the object viewer, it's a 3D object. And there's cars and buses and lorries and playgrounds and things like that in there as well. So yeah, worth remembering that they're there. A lot of people forget about that. So I'll go back to my metric subassemblies, and you get this UKIE kit in here. Now, if you don't get that, it's because you've installed the wrong version or you've not ticked the right box. When you do the install, you get the option to select your country content kit, and you need to make sure that UKIE is ticked at that point. You can go back into programs. I get asked a lot about this when people don't see that. You can go back into your programs and features. And over here, find your civil 3D. I'm not going to do this now, by the way. I just want to show you it. Find your civil 3D in your list. There it is. And do a change. And if you do a change, that will allow you to go back and tick the box to add the UK content in, and you'll get that toolbar up there. Any queries, come back to me. Just if anybody doesn't have that, just send me an email. So the first tab on the UKIE has got some useful stuff. So there's some blogs here. These are really useful. Being civil, I like from the ground up as well. That's a good one. And there's a YouTube channel as well, which will give you some more stuff in there. And then there's some user groups as well. There's a new the Manchester user group is now the UK user group. That's worth getting involved with as well. And again, I'm part of that group. So if you have any queries, just give us a shout. Under the UK design, you've got your UK sub-assemblies, so carriageways, footpaths, hard shoulders, all based on UK design. We've got some hedges and fences and stuff. And there's also things like the British curbs are in there as well, which are quite useful. DMRB, these are roads that are already built up using the DMRB standards. So you don't have to create one manually. Literally, for example, if I want to put an SU2 on, I can just go click, and there's my road done. As quick as that. And what I found most of my clients are doing, particularly people doing this type of job, you know, these kind of housing jobs, they'll have from different council regions different standards. And what you can do when you've created your road design that you want for each one, you can create your own tabs in here. So you can add your own tab in there. So I can do a new palette, call it Ian, select my assembly, hold it down and plonk it on there, and I can use it forever then. Okay, I can rename it, for example, go in and rename it to whatever I want to for each one. So you can create your own palettes of your own roads, of your own standards once you've created them. But as I say, the standard UK ones are in there. There's also the Irish ones here, the NRA. And then everything from there down is what's shipped in the box. So the assemblies are basic assemblies that are designed for just general use throughout the world. We've got basic, which is just lanes and curbs. They don't have targeting parameters. They're just very basic tools. Under lanes, we've got all these different types of lanes, which is what I'm going to use. And then you've got shoulders, medians, curbs. If your screen's not tall enough, which mine isn't, you can also click on these 3 little bars at the bottom, and that will show you extra ones. So underneath that line there, you'll see there's retaining walls, rehab, bridge and rail. So retaining walls are in here as well, for example. Go back to UKIE. So if I was to put a lane on there, I can pick a lane. I'll just pick that top one there, the lane outside super elevation. And then what I need to do is I then need to go to its properties. And again, remember, we can go back and change things afterwards. They're not fixed in stone. But if we have a look at the properties, the standard width there is 3.6 and the default slope is -2. So if I go -2.5 and change my width to 2.75, is that what I said it was? I think it was. Okay, I can click on here on the assembly. I'll just turn off the multi-select tool. There it is. And then I click on it again and it'll automatically put it on the other side. So if you click on it twice, it will assume you're putting one on the left and one on the right. And then hit enter to finish. And there's our road. And you can change these at any point, as I mentioned. If I go and select one and go to its properties and make it 3 meters and make the slope 2.5, you know, you can go in and change these to however you want. Minus, oh sorry, no, 2.75. There we are. Okay, so let's put an HP1 curb on there now. So we'll go back to our tool palettes in the UK design. If we go to the British curbs and then into the properties, what I like about these is you don't have to set the parameters because they've already been done, they're dynamic. So the default one is an HB2. If I wanted to put a bullnose curb on there, I can, or I'll put an HP1 curb on there. And then you just select the little circle that you want to anchor it to. These are anchored, and they're important that they are attached to it, because if I change the elevation or the width of this lane, I want that to move with it. So it needs to be anchored to it. So that's why you've got to select the little cyan jobby. So if I change that to 2.5, you want the curve to go up with it, of course, which it does. Okay, so let's put a pavement on there. Oh, wrong one, pavement. So I'll just put a footpath in. We said it was 2 meters, didn't we? So width 2, and I'll plonk one on there and one on there. Okay, and then last thing, we'll put a bit of edging on there. So British edging, and again we can change our properties. These are our different edging types. Select and select and tap. Okay, and here if I was to have a look at the properties, you can see there's the pavement construction and the pavement slope. We can change the edging values in here as well. So you know, if I was to make that 0.120, and you can see the slope changes like so, 0.1. You can raise or lower this pavement for the pavement thickness. So I would actually lower that, so we'd make that 0. I don't know how deep that pavement is. 125. There you go, spot on. Okay, and that's how you create that. If you wanted to put some earthworks on, then you can. So earthworks in the software is called Daylight, and there's all these extra Daylight tools in here for doing various types of benching. When it's in cut, put a little gully in. When it's in fill, don't. That type of thing. We've got a very basic one in the UK design one, just called Earthworks. Nice and straightforward. And you can set in the properties the cut and fill slopes here, the values that you want. I'll just plonk that on the edge of the edging, like so, and like so. And that will do our earthworks. Now I have to say though, in a job like this, I wouldn't do any earthworks at this stage, because what I'm going to be doing is all I want to do is design to the edge of the road and get the values at the edge of the pavement, so that I can then get my finished floor levels of my properties. The design is usually giving us that. So when I've got my finished floor levels, I will take the edge of the road as my starting point, so I wouldn't put any cut and fill in there. Okay, so the next thing is corridor modelling. So we're going to create a corridor from here. So we've got our vertical, we've got our horizontal, and we've got our cross section. So we'll do a corridor model. We'll call this one Road 1. Okay, and you need to select the correct alignment. Notice there's only one alignment in there. I know I've got two in the drawing, but there's only one alignment with a profile. So make sure you select the right one. Then you need to make sure you select the right profile. And we've got two profiles, haven't we? We've got the existing ground profile, there it is, and we've got the one we designed, VP3. Then you need to pick your assembly, and you can see I've got a whole load of assemblies already in there. If you're unsure which one it is, so let's say you're coming back to a drawing having had a holiday, or maybe it's somebody else's drawing, these boxes are really useful because you can click on a box, go and find the assembly that you want in your drawing to put on there. So I would like this assembly to put on there, and there it is, it's picked it for me, standard site road 2. If there is any cut and fill on there, you would need to target the surface. There isn't. It doesn't matter whether I target it or not in this case. And then if that's ticked, set baseline and region parameters, then it will come up with a box to allow us to change things, because I don't want to run that all the way down, do I? So click OK. So at this point it's filled in all the gaps for us, so it's told us the profile, that's what we've just told it to do, and what assembly to use. And then do you want to do it from the start to the finish? Not really. We've got a junction, haven't we, and we don't want to run a pavement across that junction. So I'm going to tell it not to go right to the end. Click on End Station, and it will take me into the drawing, attach me to the alignment. There it is, attached to the alignment. And where do I want it to finish? I want it to finish just before the junction, like so. And that fills that in for me. Okay, frequency, so it's going to sample this alignment at set frequencies. So if I click on frequency, so along straight, which I haven't actually got any in this alignment, have I? They're all curves, but it's going to put a cross section every 20 meters. So 20 meters is great if you're doing the M1 or the A1, but on a small site road like this, your tangents you want to really drop down to 5. On a slightly bigger road, maybe a 30-mile-an-hour road, then you might want to do it even every 10 meters. And in fact, most of the large companies that you work with don't really want points beyond every 10 meters, it gets too big. But I would usually drop that to about 10, and then along the curves you drop it to maybe about 5. Spirals, so these are our, a spiral is, I could show you with hand movement, but it's a transition, so it's between one level to another level around a curve to go for super elevation. We haven't got any, so I can ignore that. And then along profile curves, so we know that we've got these vertical curves in there as well, so we'd like to drop that to every 5 meters as well. It'll also put it at geometry points as well, so the highs and low points and the start and the end as well. And we'll click OK. Okay, we'll come back to targets in a minute. I'll just click OK, and it'll ask me, do I want to rebuild the corridor? Now, if I wasn't showing people this all the time, I would actually tick always perform this, but because I'm showing people, I don't. And there we are. It's put in the road along here. Doesn't look like much, but if I select it and go into the object viewer, which gives me in 3D, I'll change that to a realistic view. And there's our road that's designed in 3D. So we've got our levels across there. Okay. Now, I mentioned codes earlier on, and these code sets, and I'm not a big fan of using kind of techie words, and the word code kind of says techie, but basically when we talk about the codes in Civil 3D, at a basic level, it does more than this, but at a basic level it's how you're going to view this object. And when we're doing the design, sometimes you want to see a bit more than just the strings that it's designed along here. And if we go in by selecting the corridor, we get all the options here for corridor, so we could even have a drive down if you want, do site distances, calculate super elevation, etc. But if I go to corridor properties, it gives me an option to change it, and back into the parameters, and here's the parameters. So that's what we set at the beginning for the frequency, so we can go and change the frequency, and we can change the targets, which we'll need to do in a second. And on these parameters, then you've got codes, and these are just basically how each of the links, points and shapes are being shown. Okay, so the links are the lines. I tell you what, let's put it on to, we'll go with link shown. So you can see there, that's where it's put this cross section across here. Okay, and the links are the lines between each of the cross sections, and then the coding allows you to put a render material on there, which is why when I looked at it in 3D it looked pretty, because the render materials have been put on, so it's got asphalt on there, for example. Oh, in this one the pavement doesn't have any code. Okay, so that's the links, and you can change that, and I'm often changing this. Sometimes you might want it in with a solid hatch, like so. Yeah, stuff like that. Some people have a hatching. I don't like that though, but I don't know why anybody would have that. So we'll go to plan view with link shown, which is often how I would work when I'm designing a junction, because I want to see where these cross sections are put in. So at this point here, I need to widen the road. This road section needs to widen up to here, and we have a choice. We could actually take the road along here and put a channel in it and have a channel running in there, or we can just have the road going a constant crossfall. So just for ease at this stage, I'm going to put a constant crossfall on there. So if I go back into the corridor properties and into the parameters, this is where you can set your targets. So you can see targets. So I'll hit on the targets, and we'll get this window open here. So we've got our surfaces, we can set them, but obviously we've got no earthworks on this model, so you can't set them. Our width alignment, you've got the left hand and the right hand for the pavement and for the road. So if you don't set them, it will set to the values that you set, so 2.75 for the road, and if you do set them, it will just widen it when it sees it to that point. Okay, so for example, if I take the left hand side, I'm going from the north to the south, so on the left hand side I want to put a width alignment here, and I don't want to set alignment, I want to select some lines, some polylines that are in the drawing. So I'll go in and select from the drawing, and I want to select that line there and that line there. Okay, and it will basically lengthen that up to here. There they are, the two polylines are in there. And I maybe want to just get the pavement as well, because that might not be might not be correct as well. So I want the pavement to go to that line there and to that line there. And okay, and okay. Rebuild your corridor, and you'll see it widen up to that point. And there it is. It's widening to that point there. So at this point here, what we want to do now is we want to run it without a pavement across here and still widen up to that, and then we'll stop and we'll have a look at some of the other tools in there as well. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go into our corridor and we'll add another region. So what we want to do is add that's one region where it's got a particular assembly in it, but I want to put a different assembly across this junction. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to right click and insert a region after this one, and it'll say which assembly would you like to use. So I would like one without any pavement on the right hand side, so I'll go into my drawing and select it. So on the right hand side, this is that road, there's no pavement there, so that'll be where the junction is. And okay, I'll set the frequency. I'm going to actually set it down, right down to 1 meter. Okay, and I need to set my targets as well. Oh, I don't want to go right to the end either, do I? So I'll do that. I'll go in and select not to the end. And then we really need to move on. So I just want to go to this point. Actually, no, I'll go to this point here, the end of the junction, and then we'll set our targets. So on the left hand side, the width of the lane wants to go as wide as this object and this object and this object. So the lane will be as wide as that. Right click for enter, and the pavement structure wants to go to here, to here, and to here. Enter, and we click OK, and we click OK, and we click OK, and we rebuild the corridor. And there it is without our pavement. So we do the junction as separate. I'd do it probably in the same corridor. And if we go back to our corridor properties and change the codes back to plan view, we can have a look at that in 3D. Oh, I've done something wrong there, haven't I? Oh yeah, I've set my target to here, haven't I? I needed to set it to there. Not a problem. When you make a simple error like that, that's okay. So our lane on the left, I'll just delete them. I'm going to add the correct ones. I wanted it to go to here. And also to here. Get that lane right. Okay, and rebuild. And there's our widening. If we have a look at that in the object viewer, you'll see your road with your parking ready to do the junction. I'm planning on showing junction design at another point as well, showing you how to manually do junction designs as well, but we do a course on that. So that's how you would do your road, and you can configure that method for any road design. So even if it's just that it's an existing road that you're going to put a widening to, you need to do the width targets. You can also, I don't know whether you noticed, do the elevation targets as well as the width targets. So did you notice we've got elevation, and that could be a polyline or it could be a profile. So it doesn't have to be a profile, it can be any 3D line that's been created in the drawing as well. So you can get the road to vary its width as well. Okay, so that's basically the road design. What I do want to do before we run out of time though is show you point clouds and have a look at how that works. So let's go to another drawing. So we'll go to our point cloud drawing. So this is an empty drawing. There's nothing in this drawing, and I've got a point cloud. Let's have a look at it. There it is. This is the A52. It's a massive point cloud, this. Okay, so the question is, what can we do with it? Okay, so if I wanted to kind of just model up this junction here, what can we do with this kind of data? So this is recap I'm working in at the moment, and this comes as part of the infrastructure design suite. So if you receive a point cloud from anyone, let me just find you what one looks like. It's this is it. These are all the scans that were done in this drawing. There is about 5 gigabytes worth of data in here, and they've gone along and they've scanned it using a road one and also a handheld one, and then they've mixed them all together. And recap's quite nice because we can change the way in which it views. If we have a look, so we can do elevation using RGB codes, intensity. There's various ways of viewing it. go back to elevation. And it's quite handy for kind of measuring these, where these cables are, the heights of lights and stuff like that, the widths of roads, and what have you. So let's bring that into Civil 3D so that we can then show you what we can do with that. What you can't do right now, which would be lovely, is immediately extract geometry where these curve edges are. That facility is not available in the product. So what we'll do is we'll go straight in and we will insert that A52. So we'll go to our Insert tab, and you can see there's point cloud here. There's quite a handy little tool here for launching recap as well, save you having to go into here and finding it if you're not organised. We'll just click Attach. Find the one that we've done. You can see I've already done this one, so there it is, the A52, that's the whole lot. Click Open. Okay, we can either, I'm not going to specify on screen, the coordinates for this point cloud are already set, they're correct, so I just need to untick that. We can lock it, we can do rotation and scaling and all that sort of stuff. We don't need to do that, it's a point cloud, it's all accurate, so I'll just click OK. It won't take long to come in, there it is. Let's just check it's in the right place in the world, so if I go to geolocation and turn my map on, there it is, there's my map. What we can do is select the point cloud and you can make it transparent. So you can see the road underneath it and you can see the point cloud as well. So you know it's in the right place. So I'll go back to geolocation and just turn that off. And what can we do with it now it's in Civil 3D? Well, the first thing we can do with it is we can, I'll just turn transparency off, we can go to things like colour mapping. And we can set the different colour mapping. So if it's classified, then you'll get all these different types of things. But that means somebody somewhere has had to go in and say that's a building and that's ground and what have you. And you rarely get that. But you can turn on and off all the ones that you don't want. So for example, I know on this one they have classified the ground. So I'll turn off everything and just leave the ground on. And that gives us the just the road and the ground. There is some noise still though. If I spin it into 3D, you will see noise with these sort of things. So there are points, spurious points up and down, and of course these points here, they are just literally a laser that has come in and picked a point and put it at that point. If there's a little stone on there, it will show that. It will be an elevation. It's that accurate. What I'll do is I'll go back in to the colour mapping. We can have a look at the other ones that are in there. There's an unclassified one, and for some reason there's this reserved one. If I click on that, reserved 15 is all the other stuff. So there are different classifications in there, but there's only these three. This is straight from a client, by the way. It's not any fudge data. If we went to elevation, you could go in and set the elevation spectrum. So I don't know, we'll set it to say 24. We could, we don't want to do it to the extent because that would be awkward. If we set the maximum elevation, so I know roughly the road, if we set it say 35 meters and the minimum at 25 meters, what we'll do is we'll get a good view of our road edges, like so. I'm not so keen on the blue. Might reverse that. Let's have a look. Let's try that. Yeah, I think I prefer green. It's a bit brighter. So we can spin that around now, and we can see the signs and everything. Okay. So what can we do? We can create a surface from it, which is quite handy. We can crop it. So let's say we just want to crop it to the area that we're working on. So if I'm just doing this area here, this junction area here, we can go in and crop it. So I'll just do you can do polygonal, circular, or rectangular. So I'm just going to work on this section here. That makes my drawing a bit more manageable. There's all that noise you see. I don't know what they all are. Flying birds, dust particles, quirks in the software. And we can also change the point sizes, and we can change the level of detail as well. We'll keep that high on there as well. Okay, so let's do that. We've cropped it. Yeah, we could then draw on these feature lines here. We can draw feature lines on these curves, so you can see where that curve edge is. What's new, which some of you may have noticed, if you haven't got your 3D object snaps turned on, turn them on, because when you look at that, you've now got point cloud object snaps. Okay, so you can the edge and these edges and intersections and corners and stuff of point clouds, they're great for buildings and things like that, because what it can do is it can read a planar surface, if you like, and create them, but it doesn't work as well on roads. I'll keep working on that, see how we get on. But I certainly want to go to nodes. So I want to create a 3D line along here. So I'll do that using feature lines. Oh, we're running out of time, guys, sorry. Create a feature line. I won't bother giving it a name. I'll certainly style it maybe edge of the carriageway, like so. And I'll turn my 3D object snaps are on. And can you see now it's snapping to points on this point cloud? So I can click on it. You'll see that it's telling us what the elevation is. So hit enter, and I can go away and I can start drawing down my road. Obviously, you'd spend a bit more time on this, wouldn't you? Putting arcs in, like so. So, oh, it wasn't very good, that one. Got to be careful when you've got overhangs as well. So there's some overhanging ones here, and if I click on here, there's a good chance I might pick an overhanging one as well. So basically, that's how you would create your geometries in there, and they're obviously 3D polylines, and then we can add that into our surface. So the next thing is we want to create a surface from our road here. So I'll go back to a plan view, and I'll just create a surface of this area here. What I could do with doing is going back to classification and just turning the road on. So if I go to colour mapping and go to classification, turn off the unclassified stuff, turn off that weird one, 15, and OK, and just create the surface now of the road stuff. So I'll do the whole amount. And you'll see there's a tool in there called Create from Point Cloud. There it is. So we can give it a name, just call it PC. We can give it a style, triangulation, or whatever you want. I will do, I'll create a new style actually. Let's do 0.1, 0.5, but I'll just make that one a bit more backgroundy. Major contours, light grey, minor contours, dark grey, and in model view we want to turn on triangle so we can see them, and again we'll do light grey and dark grey, like so. Okay, click next. Okay, do you want to select all of the points in there? Well, probably not. Do you want to have them your triangles that small? Probably not. You probably want to sample every 1 meter maybe. You can see you're getting 28,000 points in there. That makes more sense. Then you've got a choice whether you do planar average, this cringing interpolation, which gives you nice smooth curves, or no filtering at all, where it will literally triangulate vertically. I'll use planar average. We'll create a surface from it, click close, and it will do that in the background for me. So I can leave that running in the background. It will only take a second, it's only a tiny surface. There it is. There's our contours. If I have a look at that surface, object viewer, it's a great surface for being able to, get it off realistic. It's a great surface for being able to get some information on. Yes, if I zoom in close, it will have all that noise in there. So you wouldn't use it for actually modelling. You'd use it for a reference surface, so we can get our profile from there, etc., and smooth that out. And you'd also, once you've designed all your curves and edges, you would then add them in as well. Okay, so that's how you create your surface from your point cloud. Road alignments, yeah, done that. Right, we're going to run out of time here, so we will move straight on, I think. Yeah. Oh, there's another thing I do as well when I'm using point clouds. I smooth the surfaces as well. So what you can do is you can select your surface, you can go to Edit Surface, and you can smooth it. And that helps as well. So if you do a natural neighbour, we'll do a grid-based, select the output region, just select the surface itself, so surface, and then maybe every 1 metre, put a grid in there. Click OK, let that run. You can see it just smooths it out a bit, so where we've got all that noise on the outside, you can see how much smoother that is. And that makes life a bit easier as well. So yeah, smoothing the surface is quite useful. Okay, it looks like we're not going to get time to do the pipes, so I'll have to apologise for that. We're going to run out of time for that. What we'll do with the pipe network is anybody who wants to specifically see the pipe networks, I'll run a video separately of this. So this video will be posted online. I'll run a separate video for the pipe network so you can have a look at that at your leisure. Alternatively, if you're local, as in UK based, then you want me to come and show you it, I'll come and show you it as well. But yeah, so we'll probably not have time to do that, because the last thing I want to show you before we round up is the federated model. So here we are. So here's the scenario, is if you're working again in a multidisciplinary environment, then you would have your civil engineers and your surveyors, then you'd have your people doing buildings, and then you'd have the people doing the pipes and all the different disciplines, and we put all that together in a Navisworks model. So here's an example of a Navisworks model. Okay, so that's your Navisworks model. If you have a look at what's in there, so we've got a DWG building, and we've got all the furniture in the first and second floors, and we've got all the ducting and the pipe work, and potentially you'll have all your structural stuff as well. And this tool here is used for managing all that. And it's quite useful, obviously, for everybody to be able to see that and do clash detections, also for managing the project in whole and doing timelining as well, so you can timeline the construction in Navisworks. But if I'm an engineer, I want to be able to see this. I want to be able to see this model, and that model is made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different drawings, potentially from different offices and different disciplines. I'd have to go and get all them models and put them into my, XREF them into my Civil 3D model separately. So then I end up being the manager. I'm managing all these models. And of course, when something's changed in the structural design, I want to be able to see that change. So if it's being managed in something like Navisworks, the best thing for me, rather than bringing in all these individuals into Civil 3D, is to bring this model in, the whole model in. And that's what's changed this year, because in the Insert tab, I can go in and I can just simply attach like you would a normal reference file, and there you go, you've got the Navisworks files have been added in there. So yes, I could have attached DWGs, DWFs or whatever, but I can also now attach Navisworks. So if I attach that one in there, click open, I do have the position of it. It would have been nice if it was originally positioned, but I got this from the manager of where it is in the world, so I'll just write them in, and the rotation, like so, and click OK, and there it is. It's brought in the Navisworks model. Let's just check it's in the right place. We'll go to our geolocation tool and turn on our aerial photography. And there it is. That's the building there, and you can see it. I go to an isometric view. You can see our model is sat on there, and I can now get my survey in and do my groundworks and have this as a reference, and it's simply attached, so I can turn it on and off if I select we can turn that on and off with the standard manager, but there are some new commands as well. So let's turn the aerial off. So you can change the transparency on it. You can see it's come in quite transparent, which is quite handy, but if you wanted to make it more transparent or not, the new command is CM, stands for coordinate model, so CM, and then fade opacity. I'll just type it in there. There it is. So CM, fade opacity, and you can set that value up to 99. No, you can't. Between 90%, so very faded, or 10% not very faded as well. So that's the working with the coordinated model now. And the beauty is I've attached this to the Navisworks model. Any changes coming up the line, when I reopen my model or refresh the attachment, they should show through as well. So that makes life a lot easier. Okay, so that we don't have time, as I say, to run through pipe networks. I'd rather not overrun because I know some of you will be hungry or got meetings planned. So we'll go back into here. As I mentioned earlier, for questions, if it's a commercial question to do with money basically, then speak to your account manager. If you don't know who that is, then you can email me and I can find out. If it's a technical question or a question on how the software is being used, then you can email me directly or ask directly in the box and I'll answer you. We should have your email addresses from when you registered, and that's where I'll answer to if you do that. Okay, so the next events, so here they all are. So the last of my summer webinars, not that we've had much of the summer, have we? The InfoWorks 360. So again, we'll be looking at InfoWorks about the same level as what we've been looking at here. So basic, but with the gateway to the next level. We'll be starting that at 2:30 till 4. If you haven't already, if you don't understand what InfoWorks is, then I highly recommend you have a look at that because I'll be showing that at the beginning. Then we've got robot structural analysis on the 30th of July for any structural engineers. I might attend that one myself actually, I'm not running that one. There's a manufacturing group there, and then there's some other stuff there as well, so 3ds Max and Showcase. And again, I'm not sure if that's a rerun of the structural one. It is. Oh, it's got the same date on it, it's just me putting it in twice as well. So they will be our next events. And there we are, there's my contact details. I've actually got a little bit of time just to answer any questions. If I can get this damn box to be bigger. Hang on. There we go, that's better. Okay, so one question, will the InfoWorks 360 be available as a video like on YouTube? Yes, I'll be recording that session, and if you haven't already seen, I've already recorded a few sessions with InfoWorks. So I did an introduction to InfoWorks, that's available on YouTube. If you go to the Greytech website, so www.greytech.co.uk, you'll be able to see a link to our YouTube channel, and if you just do a search for InfoWorks or infrastructure, then you'll see some of my earlier videos on that. One of them was on using open source data and how to get some stuff out of that and where you get all that open source data from, or free and open source data. But yes, I will record it and we will post it up on YouTube. It usually takes about a week for it to get there. Sounds daft, doesn't it, in this modern age, but it's got to go through a few people and be edited for any mistakes that I might have made, hopefully none. So yeah, that's that. So yeah, by all means register. If you can't register, that's fine. You will be able to see them up on YouTube. In fact, there's our YouTube channel there. It's still under the Address brand. That'll probably change soon to Greytech as well. Okay, so that's it. I'll finish up at that point. Thanks very much for attending, and any questions, let me know. Thank you.